Look at this. Ever wonder why drivers saw away at the wheel? We always say smooth is fast, but what about when it isn't the fastest way? Well, in Formula E, the drivers are super aggressive at the wheel, and it's for a very good reason. So let me break down how this driving style works to explain why they aren't smooth. So we all know that Formula 1 drivers have essentially all landed on a similar driving technique, and that mainly comes down to the tyres. They all have to be smooth, so they all drive in a way that enables them to be fast and save the tyres. You can just look at Fernando earlier in his career, and then now he drives super smooth. But in many other motorsports, that just doesn't work, or it isn't the quickest way around the circuit.
You are wrecking the car! Shut up!
You can work the tyres and you can be a bit more aggressive on them in order to get the most out of them. Just look at classic car racing. They are far from smooth. And the same goes with V8 supercars, and the list goes on. And this is where Formula E comes in. These are all-electric race cars on tight circuits in cities. So the surface isn't that type of top-grade race circuit. And where other series use super grippy slick tyres, they use these Hankook ion tyres that allow a little bit of sliding. This makes the racing much more interesting and means the drivers really have to adapt their driving styles to suit the tyres. They're actually more similar to the tyres you would fit to an EV. They're made to last a long time, be quiet, have low rolling resistance and good grip. But they aren't made for peak grip on a racing circuit. So when a car has a little bit less grip, you'll find that you need to drive a little more aggressively to get the most out of those tyres. This is because as you go through the corner, the tyre is moving from below the limit of grip to slightly above the limit of grip all the time. Gripping, then sliding, then gripping, then sliding. This is part of the skill these drivers have, balancing the limit of grip as well as possible. And talking to the drivers, it seems that they have to be very delicate in the way they drive on this tyre.
One of the challenges they've talked about in the first 3 races is how braking and turning is really challenging at the moment with the current Hankook tyres.
So the drivers have to drive a slightly different line to make this tyre perform the way they want. And you can also see this in the Formula E sim. Brendan Lee, who is racing in the Formula E Accelerate Championship, showed me this in London. Look how smooth he is on the brakes into the corner. You can see the red brake trace here, and the transition from 100% braking to less than 10% is really, really smooth. And this will be extremely similar to what the real drivers are doing in the cars. And there's more. This behaviour of the tyres dictates the racing line the drivers use as well. I spoke to the now Formula E World Champion Jake Dennis earlier this season.
Brake as late as you can all the way into the corner, stop it in the middle and then try and get a straight line exit.
Now this does change in the race, where the drivers will change their racing line again to carry more minimum speed and save energy. In order to go as fast as possible, for instance in qualifying, they really have to V off the corner. And this is down to the tyre, but also a load of other factors. The surface of a racetrack in Formula E just isn't the same as something like Spa. They are city circuits, meaning the grip is a little bit less consistent, meaning the drivers have to feel this and correct the car all of the time. Then there's the suspension. The cars have to be stiff to control the weight transfer of the car, but also provide the best platform for the aerodynamics. But then at these city tracks, there are lots of bumps and big curbs. So it's a tough challenge for the teams and the engineers to set the cars up. And there's another factor at play here as well. The tyres will allow a bit of sliding and they will still be quick. So the drivers use that. Just look here at the Formula E Accelerate Championship. These are the top sim racers driving these cars in R Factor 2. And this is a great insight as we can clearly see the drivers' inputs. The green line is their throttle trace and the red line is their brake. And you can see the steering wheel movements just here. And look at how they use the car moving around beneath them to pivot the car through the tight corners. This is Isaac Gillenton, and look at how he uses the weight transfer and the slight sliding of the tyres to pivot the car around these tight hairpins. And you can see this in the way all of the drivers drive. I was actually presenting in London for this event and I was blown away at the car control the drivers have and how they were keeping the cars planted on the circuit. And on the other side, when to let the car move around a little bit. And they were able to do this lap after lap, all very close to the walls, which of course is super impressive. So all of this comes together to mean the car is sliding slightly through the corner, and the drivers have to adapt to this. But let's go back to my original question. Why do they soar away at the wheel? Why is smooth not faster? Well, in Formula 1, the tracks are super smooth and the tyres are incredibly capable. And the tyres give an incredible amount of grip, even though they can degrade quite quickly. So the drivers have less guessing to do about the level of grip. So they can load up the car and sit the car on the limit a bit more easily. So through the corner, the tyre can sit on or just below its peak grip. And the driver can keep this consistent all the way through the corner. Whereas in Formula E, the tyres don't have that same peaked peak grip. The surface is bumpy and more inconsistent, and the cars have fewer clever suspension tricks to control the balance of the car. So the driver has to do all of the work, and therefore they're constantly reacting all the way through the corner. If they were to only drive in a super smooth way, winding on lock and then slowly winding it back off again, they wouldn't be driving right at the limit because of all these peaks over the bumps, and they just wouldn't be as fast. But where the steering input isn't smooth, the way the driver is driving and the way the car is reacting is. Through the corner there are bumps, the tyres are gripping and then sliding and then gripping again, and the driver is moving from braking and turning to accelerating and back out of the corner again. There is a lot going on, and they're having to react to the car all the time. But if you zoom out slightly, the way the car is moving is smooth. The drivers are using those corrections to keep the car on the line, and the platform of the car as smooth as possible. So despite looking a little bit frantic at the wheel, the drivers will be aiming for the weight transfer through the corners to be as progressive and precise as possible. But Formula E drivers aren't just aggressive at the wheel, they are super aggressive when it comes to overtaking. I made a video that you can watch about that just here. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.